Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another TMDSAS office hour. My name is Suleima, and I am the TMDSAS Support Coordinator. So for today's session, if you're not familiar with our platform already, we do have the Texas Health Education Service YouTube channel where we host our series such as the office hours for TMDSAS. We also have a new series called Busting Myths about when we have experts and people who could come in and give us a little bit more insight about the application cycle and things that you should know, and as well as other and many, many more videos as well available to you. So for the office hour, it is another platform that we provide our applicants. So you can ask questions about the application, about applying, anything related to Team DSAS. Feel free to join us in our weekly office hours, typically hosted on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Central Time. And we'll be happy to be here as long as we need to, honestly, to be able to answer any of your questions live. And yeah, so typically, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and send that into the chat. Again, we're here until we answer all of your questions. So just go ahead and post any if you have any in the chat. I will go ahead and get started with showing you guys our analytics show that our deadlines and important dates website page is very popular around this time of the year. We have a lot of upcoming deadlines that are coming up. One of those is the veterinary application deadline, which will be on Monday, September 18th. So by 5 p.m. Central Time, if you're a veterinary applicant, you'll need to submit your application for vet school by 5 p.m. at Central Time, and also your veterinary evaluation forms. For the dental and medical applicants, you don't have to worry about this deadline just yet. It's not applicable to you. But you do have your application deadline on, let's see, Tuesday, November 1st at 5 p.m. Central Time. That's whenever your application is due. But your letters of evaluation are not necessarily due until November 15th. So you do have a little bit of wiggle time between the submission of or the deadline of your application and your letters of evaluation, only if you're a dental or medical applicant. So just so you know, I'm not making this up. I'll go ahead and link the website for our deadlines page down below. And I know that we have a lot of applicants who are currently working on their application and still working through those early sections and need some help with it. I promise you that we do have some guidance. We have the application guide that is on our website. It's broken down by the individual sections that are in your application, so you can follow along with it and fill it out as you're going through the application guide and filling out those sections. There's a lot of important notes in that give you technical aspects to consider and important notes that you should know when filling out your application. So the application guide will also be linked in the chat for your reference. And just like we have many applicants who are still working on their application, we do have a lot of applicants who have already submitted their application and are wondering what the next steps are. We don't necessarily have the checklist, but we do have a section in the application guide that gives you steps and information that you need to know once you have submitted your application. Information about processing times, how long that's going to take, and what that looks like. How you will be notified once your application has been sent to the schools. Information about viewing the status of your letters and scores. Those are also very important components to your application. Information about secondary applications, Casper, approved changes to an application after it's been submitted, And of course, once it has been transmitted, you are able to access the PCR, otherwise known as a prescribed coursework report. And this report is very important for you to review. Earlier on, the better. This document does provide you some information on which of your courses counted towards your prerequisites, and it gives you an idea to see if you have any deficiencies in those hours so that you can resolve those earlier on in the cycle and not wait until the last minute when you are waiting to matriculate and enroll in your courses and your schools don't let you because you have yet to fulfill a deficiency. So I'll go ahead and list the after submitting page below. And if you do have any questions, feel free to enter that into the chat, and I'll be more than happy to help address your question. And I know that we get a lot of questions about secondaries, what that looks like, um, issues that are occurring on those portals. Unfortunately, TMDSAS does not manage secondary applications. Your schools do. So they would be able to provide insight as to if you have any trouble with it, accessing the portal, or there's anything that looks funky on your secondary. A lot of the schools take the information from your primary and import it into the secondary application portals. That's as far as I know happens on that end with secondaries. But we do have some information about the schools that do require the secondaries, which you can take a look at on our website. So I'll go ahead and link that as well, just so that way that's kind of like your jump start, your starting point as to looking into what is needed from you, what schools require the secondaries, and then from there, if you have any further questions, you can contact the schools. Alrighty, let's see here. All right, we have a brave soul here ready to ask a few questions. Um, and this name actually looks familiar, Madison. Hi, Madison. I believe we have been in contact in the past few weeks. Welcome. For your first question, if I receive the same scholarship multiple times, can I just enter it once with the initial award date and mention future dates/semesters in the description? Absolutely, that is definitely one way that you can enter your awards. You can start it with when the first initial date you received it to the most recent, and in the description box, you can absolutely mention the terms that it applied for. Sorry, I saw a little fly here. Hello, by the way. Hello to you too. For activities that began before high school but continue through high school. So, example, pet ownership, piano lessons, etc. Should I list the year I started or the start from my freshman year? This is a great question. But my question to you would be, are you a veterinary applicant or are you a dental, medical, or podiatry applicant? Your response definitely determines how far you can go into your activities and where you should start your start date. So let me know what that is, and then we can continue to address your question. In the meantime, I'll address this other one. I was on a couple 4-H teams who competed and won awards at championships. Can I apply my time on the team as animal leadership hours and mention the award itself and non-academic awards? Great question again. So referring to the activities page in our application guide, with activities, you do have to enter the activity only once in one category that you choose. Since you are the expert in your activities and you know what you did, you have an idea of what you want to tell the schools about that activity, that can definitely help you determine which category it needs to go into. Um, just know that there are a couple of exceptions to entering that rule where you can only enter an activity once. And the exceptions to that are healthcare and employment, as well as dental and employment, or if the activity resulted in a leadership. So for here, it looks like you mentioned animal leadership and non-academic awards. So those three categories, I recommend that you select either the animal or the non-academic award, and you can also apply it to leadership as well for that category. Just make sure that your descriptions are tailored to the specific category in which you place it. So if you put this activity under the leadership category, make sure that you only talk about the leadership aspect in that category description. Don't copy and paste what you have in other categories because then that looks like a repetition that schools don't like to see that. And I definitely heard from the veterinary schools that they don't like to see that kind of duplication. So if you are a vet applicant, make sure that you don't duplicate your activities like that, especially with your descriptions. However, like I mentioned with the leadership category, you are able to put your activity in that category as well as another one. So, like, let's say, for example, you choose to put this in non-academic awards. That can be one category. Talk about the award itself in the description. In the leadership category, you can list it there, but only talk about your leadership, like your skills, title, or anything else that you want to let the schools know about why this activity also applies to leadership. All right. Can I mention activities and essays without them being in the activity section? I just joined an organization where I have not yet had the chance to be active, but I explained why I joined in my essay. Yeah, that should be fine. With the essays, you're not restricted to only talking about your activities. Um, However, that is a little different with the meaningful experiences. There are three meaningful experiences that you can list in that section, which has to reflect one of your activities from any of your bio categories. Those three meaningful experiences have to be pulled from the activities you have already mentioned. However, if this is just your essay, like your personal characteristics essay, or any of those essays that are listed just in the essay section, then yes, you can do this. You're not restricted to only talking about the activities you have participated in or only have had experience. So in your case, if you're only referring about the essay page itself and mentioning this activity, you can certainly do that. Oh, perfect. You are a veterinary applicant. Okay. So yes, going back to your activity question here, for activities that began before high school but continued through high school, with your examples, should I list the year I started or start from my freshman year? So as a veterinary applicant, the furthest date back that you can go is your freshman year of high school. So even though you had your pet or you were in piano lessons like in middle school or beyond in elementary, unfortunately you can only start those dates with your freshman year of high school. So let's say, for example, you were in high school in let's just say 2018, fall 2018, that's the start of your freshman year, and that would be the start of your year of pet ownership and piano lessons. Okay, more on essays. Is it okay that I briefly made reference to a couple of activities in my personal statement essay when I focus on those same activities in my personal characteristics essay? Let me take a look and see what the essays for veterinary applicants look like. Because I know it's a little, the wording is a little different than the ones from medical and dental. So just give me a second. Okay, so let's see for essays. Okay, so for veterinary applicants, you will be required to submit a personal essay for the veterinary school application, personal characteristics, and a unique experience essay. So let's see, personal statement, and I believe that should be fine. Again, this is completely up to you as to what you want to mention in the essay. Um, I believe the vet schools made some kind of reference to what they want to see in these essays because I believe our director did ask that they expand a little bit on what they would like to see, not only for activities but also for the essays. I think there is a part in that school panel where they talk about that. So I recommend that you go into our YouTube channel, the Texas Health Education Service page. Um, the TMDCS school panel is on there. We do have representatives from both Texas A&M and Texas Tech addressing questions that we typically get from vet applicants. Some questions are answered live there as well. But just take a look at that. From my end, all I can tell you is it shouldn't be a problem because it's up to you what you want to mention in your essays and let the schools know about. But if you want like a further detailed explanation or answer, I definitely recommend that you take a look at the veterinary school panel, and I can go ahead and link it in the chat as well. Alrighty. So the link to the vet schools panel is down below in the chat. And let's see. Yeah, and yeah, no problem. I'm glad to be here. Madison says, thank you very much for all your help. And yes, I have been on this channel before. Thank you so much for tuning in every week and joining us. I can assure you that all your questions are also questions that many applicants also are wondering about. So it's definitely true with what I heard in grade school growing up. If you have a question, go ahead and ask because more than likely someone else also has your question. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing and tuning in and asking all your questions. Alrighty, so we have another question. If we did philanthropic work, should we enter that into the app anywhere? For instance, I funded a water well in Mali. Would that be appropriate to mention? If so, where? Definitely. You can definitely talk about this experience in your activities or personal biography section. That will have multiple categories that you can list your activities in. Ultimately, it is up to you to make that determination about what you want to talk about that activity specifically. So it's great that you're thinking about listing this activity in your application, but just kind of reflect back on as to what exactly you want to talk about regarding this activity. Depending on that will help you determine which category it's most appropriate to list it in. And if you have any questions about how to approach that or what the schools might want to see, there's also another video that we hosted with Dr. Kellaway from the Long School of Medicine. Of course, if you're not applying to medical school, you might feel like, that's not for me. But I can assure you, Dr. Kellaway offers some great insight as to information about activities, how to format it, what to list in those descriptions, how to approach the thinking about where would it be best to list your activities and just being very strategic with that. I can also go ahead and link it in the chat below just so that you have it for your reference. Okay, so I went ahead and posted the link to that YouTube video. It's part of our session about busting myths. There's a lot of myths out there about applying to medical, dental, podiatry, and veterinary school. And so we hosted a session with Dr. Kellaway. She offered great insights. First, she started off actually explaining how to strategically think about your activities to help you determine what category it should be best placed in, what to include in your descriptions, how to talk about it, the format of it. We get a lot of questions as to it should be a paragraph style or bullet points. She addresses that as well. Um, and many, many more things and questions and topics regarding all about activities. So I highly, highly recommend that you take a look at that just for additional information and insight that can be helpful for you to fill out your application. Well, these have been great questions, guys. I want you to go ahead and ask any other questions that you have during this time that we have. And if not, you can always send us a message in your TMDSAS application portal if you have any questions that come up outside of this session. Okay. We got another question. Do you know if schools will begin reviewing our applications even if all our letters of evaluation aren't in yet? This is a great question. As far as we know, with the schools, by the LORs, I believe that you are a dental or medical applicant. Many of those schools have shared that it's just kind of depends on their review process. So some schools will um, go ahead and review what you have, even if your letters are not all submitted. The minimum required letters that you need are three. So if you are missing one of those, or if you selected that you will be submitting four letters and only have three, sometimes on the school's ends, that will be marked as incomplete because not all of your letters are in. So some schools will go ahead and review what you have, some will not, some will wait until all those letters are submitted. It just depends on the schools. Um, we're not entirely sure like which ones by name have a process that only reviews letters once they're all submitted, or they go ahead and review your what you have. But what I do remember is the session with Dr. Kellaway. She did mention that Long School of Medicine will review what you have, and just to make sure you don't just quote me on that, you can just go ahead and take a look at that video to make sure of that. I believe that's what I remember from the session and her saying that. But if not, you can always double check. But yeah, it kind of just depends on the schools. And do I know what the processing times are like now for dental apps? Great question. Let me go ahead and link to our website because our homepage has information about processing letters of evaluation and application processing times. So whenever you go to www.tmdsas.com, our homepage on the right-hand side has a blue box. It says TMDSAS is currently processing letters of evaluation for both direct upload and interfolio. Those dates are August 25th. So our team is currently processing letters that were submitted via those two methods submitted on August 25th. For applications, this is for medical, dental, podiatry, vet applicants. Any application that was submitted on July 31st, those are the applications that our team is currently processing. So if you submit it afterwards, just be patient. It can take up to 4 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer during the peak of the cycle. But that just means that our team will be getting to your application shortly. This information is updated daily, so you're always going to have the most accurate information listed on our website. So that way you can keep track of when you can anticipate to hear back on the processing of your application and ultimately it being sent to the schools. But yeah, thanks for all your help. Of course, no problem. I'm glad that I could help you guys out with questions, and hopefully making this process a little bit less daunting. I know it can be very stressful, making sure that you are able to submit everything. I know that you guys have been working on this through a very long time, through high school, definitely into your college career, and ultimately now to the point where you're applying and submitting your application. So I totally get it. It's a stressful process, but hopefully, yeah, we can help you guys out feel a little bit more at ease with that. Okay, yeah, no problem. One more question. When does TMDSCS request our transcripts usually? Is it once the application is processed? Great question. So TMDSAS is a little different. It's different than other application services where you might be required to submit your transcripts once you submit your application. However, TMDSAS is different with our transcripts, and I'll go ahead and also list it in the chat just so that everyone can see it, not just hear it from me. But with transcripts, depending on your status of dental medical podiatry applicant, transcripts will be requested from you. So TMDSCS will send you an email notification letting you know that you need to send your transcripts only after the schools have let us know that you've been accepted. So if you haven't been accepted, haven't been notified about that, you will not be receiving a notification from us to submit your transcripts. So don't worry about that just yet. Only once application or only once acceptance letters go out for medical applicants, this will be October 15th and afterwards. You can expect to hear on the schools getting back to applicants and letting you know whether you've been accepted or not. For dental applicants, this happens December 15th and forward. So we're definitely not in the time period of the cycle where we are asking for transcripts. For veterinary applicants, this is a little different. Once you have been interviewed and the schools have let us know that you have been interviewed, at that point, TMDSAS will send those applicants an email notification letting you know that you need to send in your transcripts. And of course, whenever you receive that email, it gives you information to how to submit those and any other FAQs about transcripts. So in the meantime, don't worry about them just yet. Yeah, yeah, we're definitely a different service, since we are a Texas application service for these professional schools. Texas just likes to be different sometimes. So I know that applying to many application services can be also confusing in their requirements. But with us at Team DSCS, we don't need those at this time. So don't spend any money on transcripts just yet. Um, only once those are requested. These were great questions, guys. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, asking these great questions. Or I would say these are frequently asked questions. So definitely thank you guys so much for participating, asking. I hope this session was helpful and helping you with your application and understanding this process a little bit more. Again, if you do have any further questions that you think of later on, don't hesitate to send that via your message in your application portal. At the top right hand corner, it'll say send a message to TMDSAS. Just compose your message, select any topic that's relevant to your question, and send it our way. Anytime that we get a message from you, it is attached to your application. So if there's any instance where our team members need to look at your application to assist you, it is already connected, and it's a much faster process. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys on, let's see, we're out for Labor Day weekend next week. So our next session will be on Tuesday, the 12th at the same time. Oh, I highly recommend that you, if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram. We will be posting our schedule or Team DCS office hours schedule for the month of September, and the remaining months of the cycle as well. So that way you know exactly when we'll be available to help you, because these deadlines are quickly approaching. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys on Tuesday, September 12th. Bye, everyone.